Hey there, quilting friends, it's Carolina Moore, your favorite sewing and quilting YouTuber, and today I'm showing you the 7/8 ruler by Creative Grids. If you've never heard of this ruler, I'm going to show you why you absolutely need it in your rulers. It is such a great ruler, especially if you do a lot of quilts that use half square triangles. All those patterns that say that you need to cut to 7/8, if those drive you crazy, then this is the ruler for you. We're going to go ahead and get into how to use this ruler. You ready? Let's get started. Okay, so we have our fabric here, and I have already prepped this fabric. I'm going to tell you how I prepped this fabric. Two things. First, I went ahead and starched it. If you have never starched your fabric before, go ahead and click the link to my starching video. I'll also have that link down below so that you can see how I get my fabrics nice and starched. And then the second thing that I've done is, you can see this on the back here. Normally, when you get your fabric, the two selvages are more or less lined up. When I pressed my fabric after starching, I brought this selvage up to about the edge of our pretty decorative selvage. And the reason that I did that is because I'm going to take this on my mat here, and I'm going to go ahead and cut off 2 inches from this edge. I like to keep my pretty selvages, and I have a selvage quilt that I'm planning for later on this year, so you'll want to keep an eye out for that. So I cut off about 2 inches. And when I do that, what I like to do is I like to take this end, and if I line up my fold nicely on my mat, there we go. And then I cut 2 inches off of here, and I can line up this line with the line on my mat. Now I both have a piece of fabric that is going to be parallel at this line and this line, which is not essential, but does make it a little bit easier. I'll show you why this trick helps with this ruler. Also, I have this great piece of selvage right here that I can use in a selvage quilt. It has the information and the pretty decorative stuff that's here in the selvage, all of the fabric information, plus it has some of the fabric itself, and I love including that in my selvage quilts. Okay, so I'm going to save this with all my selvages, and this tiny little piece here, that's just going to be waste. And now I'm going to actually use my piece of fabric. Well, the first thing you're going to note when you see the 7/8 inch ruler is that it is a lot smaller than our piece of fabric here. If you want to use a 7/8 ruler to cut a piece that is of yardage, that's the whole width of fabric, you're going to say, well, I can't, this ruler is too small. And no, it isn't. It's actually perfect, because we want to get the most out of this that we can. Okay, so we're going to start by flipping this. And this end is where our selvages used to be. If you don't trim off your selvages like I did before, you can go ahead and just skip to this step. That's fine. Here I'm lining up my straight edge, my straight trimmed off edge. Now I'm going to bring up this other fabric, and I'm going to bring it up a little over, and I'm going to line up. There we go. I'm going to line up that edge with a line on my mat. And now if I fold down here, I should be able to see that this is straight as well. If you skip the step of cutting off your selvages, you want to just go ahead and fold your fabric in half so that the fold is up by your selvages, and then you want to make sure that this fold line and the new fold line that you created are parallel, which means that this is lining up with this line on your mat, this fold line here, plus this fold line here is lining up with any line on your mat. And you can move this up or down however you needed. It doesn't have to be exactly in half, but about in half, because look, that means our ruler will now fit. Now the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim off my raw edge here to give me a nice crisp edge. There we go. And now I'm ready to cut my half square triangle squares, whatever size I need. Now you'll see right here on the ruler, 7/8, 1 7/8, 2 7/8, 3 7/8, 4 7/8, and then I can tell you that this piece right here, that's going to be 5 7/8. Because what they've done is this is so genius. It's so genius. So what they've done is instead of giving you the 1 inch mark, they've just moved it over 1/8. So instead of a 1 inch mark, you get a 7/8 mark. Instead of a 2 inch mark, you get a 1 7/8 mark. Instead of a 3 inch mark, you get a 3 7/8 mark. Because this ruler is specifically for making half square triangles. And when we make half square triangles, we want to cut our squares to the 7/8. We don't care about the 1 inch, the 2 inch, the 3 inch. We care about the 7/8, the 1 7/8, the 2 7/8. And so those are the marks that they've given us. Now it has all the other marks as well. So you can use it just like a regular ruler if you want. But this ruler is perfect for half square triangles because of those 7/8 marks. So we're going to cut 2 7/8 inch half square triangles. Now the magic of the 7/8 is that a 2 7/8 inch square is going to make a 2 inch finished half square triangle. So that means when it's in the quilt and you've got all your seam allowances off, your 2 7/8 inch square will be a 2 inch half square triangle. A 3 7/8 inch square will be a 3 inch triangle. That 7/8 is the 1/4 inch seam allowance on both sides, plus the little bit that you need because it's going on the diagonal, right? Okay, so we're going to do this 2 7/8, and to make sure that I have this lined up really well, I'm going to grab my, yep, you guessed it, I'm going to grab my Spoton dots. If you're not familiar with the Spoton dots, these are my invention, and they've been out for over a year now. They are these magnifying lenses that you stick just right on your ruler, and they have an adhesive that just sticks right on your ruler with a little bit of pressure. If they lose their adhesive at some point, you just wash them with some soap and water, and that cleans off the adhesive so they become sticky again. And you can just remove them to use them on any of your favorite rulers. So I can put these Spoton dots on. That'll help me see the edge of my fabric and make sure that I really am lining that up correctly. And now I cut my 2 7/8 inch strip. Now I can keep doing that, lining it up on my 2 7/8 inch. There we go. And I'm going to do one more. Lining up on that 2 7/8 inch. Which is going to give me 2 inch finished half square triangles. So now I have these pieces, and because I folded with the lines parallel here and here, you'll see there's no notch or V in where this fold was. It's going to be perfectly straight. So I'm just going to line these up, and you can stack them on top of one another if that's your preference. You can lay them next to one another. I'm going to stack them, but I don't want to do more than 4 layers because of shift. So I'm just going to stack 2 on top of one another. And I'm going to grab my ruler with my Spoton dots, and I can move those Spoton dots. And I want to see that top edge and this side edge. There we go. So I'm lining up my 2 7/8 inch here, and then just any line across the top so that I'm getting a, for sure, right angle right there. And those are my 2 7/8 inch squares. Now I can keep cutting those all the way down the length of my folded up strip. So there we go. I have all of my 2 7/8 inch squares cut out for my finished 2 inch squares, my 2 inch half square triangles that are going to be thin when they're all finished. And I need to cut my other side because obviously a half square triangle is one fabric of one color and one fabric of another color. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that other color. So now I'm ready to stitch up these half square triangles. And the way that you do that is you grab one side, it doesn't matter which one, and you go ahead and draw a line down the middle from corner to corner. So from that corner to that corner, and you draw a line. Now I have a video that I've done on my favorite kinds of pens. You can go ahead and find that video. The link will be right here. It'll also be down below in the description. This one that I'm using is a friction pen because this is going to be on the back, so I'm not worried about that line reappearing. So I went ahead and drew my line here on the back, and I put the two pieces right sides together. And now I can sew on either side of this line a 1/4 inch. So 1/4 inch seam allowance on either side of the line. And then I will cut on this line to make my half square triangles. Or, and I'm going to give you a little bonus, a second ruler, if you will. This is the Creative Grids Seam Guide tool. I have a whole nother video that I'll be showing you on this tool, but I wanted to get it out and show you this awesome little tool already. This is probably the least expensive ruler you'll ever buy, and you will find so many reasons to pull it out. So I just take this center line and I go corner to corner with my center line. And then I just draw my line on either side with my pen. And now I know exactly which line to stitch on. So it's perfectly given me my stitching lines. And if you want, you can actually mark your cut line as well. So if we want to also do our center, a mechanical pencil is great. You can use one from a quilt shop. This one just has graphite in it, and that's also going to be fine. This is just a regular mechanical pencil. And I can mark each side. And then the mechanical pencil is long enough to get down in that slot. So now I'll have my cut line marked for me as well as my stitching line on either side. And so that's what this little seam guide does. And I'll link to this down below as well as the 7/8 ruler. So there's your little bonus today. We did 2 different rulers. I'll be teaching you more about this little seam guide here later, but that is the 7/8 inch ruler. If you have any questions or comments, leave those down below. As always, I look for your comments and I try to get any questions answered. If you're new around here, make sure you're subscribed. There is so much coming for video, and I want to make sure that you don't miss out on anything. Also, you can go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I have hundreds of videos already here, and I have so many more coming your way. So you'll want to subscribe so you don't miss out on any more videos that I have for you here. Thanks so much for watching, my friends. Again, all the links are down in the description for anything that you need, but I will see you right here real soon. Bye for now, friends.